Today's question isn't so much a question, but a comment that I see pop up on the channel from time to time, and I thought it was interesting to address. Here it is. The question essentially is something along the lines of, sure, game works on insecure or unintelligent or unattractive or whatever girls, but would it really work, or does it really work on high value, secure, sophisticated, intelligent girls? And I think that's a really interesting question, so let's dive into it. First of all, let me say I completely understand where this question is coming from, because a lot of the techniques in game, especially the emotional spike type of techniques, might appear gimmicky or contrived or unsophisticated, especially in the hands of someone who doesn't really know them or doesn't have experience with them yet. Someone who is unfamiliar with a push-pull, who's trying to say a push-pull in a clunky way, yeah, that won't work, right? But there's a big difference between something done unexpertly and by an inexperienced person and something done expertly. Beyond that, these type of attraction tactics or push-pulls or negs or whatever in game are not all of game. They are simply something that is used to get a window of attention so that a man is able to convey his personality to a woman. If a man relies on these game tactics but has no substance behind it, he may get a woman's attention for a short period of time, but he will probably lose it later in the interaction or down the line in the relationship. He won't be able to hold that attention he's gotten because game tactics just get you in the door. The substance is what keeps you there. And also, these type of emotional spike techniques are not all of game, but more on that later.
I don't usually let myself like a girl.
We have something in common.
That you don't usually like girls?
Yeah. Or guys.
Really? Why not? I mean, I know most guys suck, but still, like...
Exactly.
Yeah. Alright. Are the majority of guys you meet boring, suck, or asshole suck?
Boring.
Boring? Mostly
So
boring?
boring.
Okay.
And it's like, the good thing about you is that I'm not going through the interview.
You're not what?
I'm not going through the interview. I hate it. Like, all the dates is about the interview, and the questions are the same.
So the first argument that I'm going to make that game does in fact work on high quality women is not actually an argument, but it's anecdotal evidence, which is that I've seen it work for me with those type of women. I've seen it work for my friends and my students with those type of women. Now I know that every single person in the comments who disagrees with this or who thinks it doesn't work on high quality women is sitting there writing right at this moment, well, if it worked on them, they weren't high quality, high value women. But if you think about it, that argument is circular, right? If by definition game working on them makes them low quality, then yes, you will win the argument that it doesn't work on high quality women, but you won't be any more right in the real world. If you were to decide what type of women are high value, secure, sophisticated, intelligent women, and then put them in interactions with guys who have good game and are high value, those women would in fact become attracted to those men. So if you ran a good experiment, this would be borne out. But if your definition is if game works on them, they're low value, then yes, you win the argument. It's a dumb argument and it doesn't mean anything and it's wrong in the real world. But yes, if you want to win the argument by arguing it that way, congratulations, you win the argument. Next up, in order to think about who game works on, let's talk about who game would not work on. And that would be essentially robots or Vulcans, right? Entities with no feelings are not susceptible to game. On the other hand, is that really the type of woman you want to date? A woman with no feelings, who's cold and calculating and rational at all times and probably no fun and doesn't know how to flirt and doesn't know how to be feminine? If that's the type of woman you're trying to attract, you're looking for a woman who essentially probably is a gold digger, and her method of attraction is presenting your resume to her and her putting it through some kind of like computer algorithm. So if that's the kind of woman you want, more power to you, and also good luck finding a woman like that in the real world, because even the most heartless and gold digging girls in the world still actually have feelings and still do respond to game because they are still human beings. And in order to drive this point home, I want to look at a couple of sort of arts of persuasion that are in the realm similar to game, which is like sales and marketing. And the fact of the matter is, I'm sure that you consider yourself an intelligent person, but I'm sure that at some point in your life, somebody sold you something that you didn't go in and intend to buy. And I'm sure that at some point you were marketed to some product you hadn't actively researched and weren't actively looking for, and then you decided in the spur of the moment you wanted it or you needed it or it was right for you. Part of that was probably down to marketing or sales, and part of that was down to the product legitimately solving a need for you. And that brings me to the other aspect of game, which is that as men, we are solving a need for women. Women, if they want to be happy and in a relationship, they need to find a man somewhere. And they have a certain amount of men to choose from. They can choose the men who are fun for them and provide good experiences, or they can choose men who bore them. And fundamentally, their life is better if they choose men who give good experiences. And what are a lot of these kind of gimmicky or button-pushing tactics in game? Fundamentally, they are also arousing. They are also experience-giving. They are also fun. Which brings me to a final point, and that is the question of what is game? Game is not an algorithm. Game is not a script you read verbatim to every girl. We used to think that that kind of worked in 2002, 2003. But over the last 20 years or so, we found that there are much more useful, much more effective approaches that involve paying attention to the girl and adjusting to the actual girl in front of you. So good game nowadays looks different with every single girl. So if you were to tell me that this particular tactic won't work with this particular girl, you may be right. But that doesn't mean that this tactic or this tactic or this tactic or this approach or this way of conveying your personality wouldn't work with that girl. And so if you are actually good at game, you're not a one-trick pony. You're not reading an algorithm. You're actually paying attention to the girl, and you're actually responding with what is most arousing, most interesting, most relevant, most high value to her. Also, fundamentally, basically every technique in game didn't come from nowhere. It came from copying what already works, what high value guys do naturally. So even if nobody were formally studying game, you would still see most of these modes of communication here and there in conversation. You wouldn't see them in quite as concentrated of a dose as you might see from someone who's learned formal game, but you would see these things because they are things that high value guys do naturally. They come from a very real place, and the reason we copied them is because they were working with the high value girls and we saw it happening. So those are all arguments for why game doesn't not work with high value girls. Yeah, think about that sentence, doesn't not work. But I want to actually give you the reasons why possibly game may work actually better with higher value, more aspirational, more intelligent, more secure girls. And that is because those type of girls are ambitious. Those type of girls actually want the best. Those type of girls are aspiring to something. And so they are actually the type of people who are more likely to respond to value. They are also the type of people that are probably being hit on the most in the most lame ways, and so they're the type of people for whom actually doing game and not falling into their frame and being able to be yourself and convey yourself as a high value guy is likely to be the most refreshing breath of fresh air. So not only does game not work with them, it actually works better with these type of girls, and again, that has been my experience, especially with my style of game and my personality, to be fair. In general, I have done the best with highly educated women, with successful women, with in-demand women. I don't do as well with mediocre women. This is true because number one, my game relies somewhat on ambition and aspiration and possibility. And number two, because honestly, when a girl isn't high value enough or isn't that type, I actually fundamentally tend to get bored in the interaction and then I can't game as well. So in my own personal experience, not only does game not work with high value women, it actually works better with them. So anyway, those are my thoughts and my experiences on the matter from decades of personal experience. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your view on the matter. And I am looking forward to the comments below that say if it worked on them, they weren't high value, because I just love hearing that argument, especially as it's already addressed in the video. But in any case, hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next video. Take care.